Okay, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Today, let's take a bit of a detour in the sense that, well, we usually talk about politics and that kind of a thing. You know, economics, yeah, maybe what we want to talk about today will fit into our economics because our focus, our subject matter is going to be Brazil. And when you say Brazil, I suppose around the world, one of the images that will first of all jump to mind might be the world famous real cultural, what is that, the world famous Rio Carnival. People come from all around the world. And that voice that you just heard is, it's Chief Ajoyemi Olabisi Oshunleye. So I took my time to pronounce those words because it's very particular. So I said, okay, what use is a Yoruba man if you can't call Yoruba names? Some of them are tough, shall you have to put all sorts of army on them. Yeah. But anyhow, here we are. Mr. Oshunleye is a cultural diplomat and a heritage advocate. That really sums up a lot about what you occupy yourself with. So thank you very much for coming on our program. We'd like to look at the economic and cultural impact of Nigeria-Brazil relations. Yeah. Maybe to situate Brazil, let's go a wee bit, just a wee bit into the origins of these relations. Because people talk about, in Lagos here, Aguda. Aguda, yeah. When there's a bus stop that's Aguda, there's an area that is Aguda, there are people that are known as Aguda. That's in a historical perspective. Yes. So there was a transatlantic slave trade. Yes. And maybe I'll let you take it from there. As I said, this wee bit about forming the sort of character sketch of Brazil the way it is known.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing me to the show. I really appreciate Brazil, Nigeria, you know. It's something that we need to understand. People need to know, you know, and see the huge benefit between these two countries. And I'll start by saying Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Okay. Why Brazil is also the giant of South America. Okay. So you imagine if two giants meet, you know, there's going to be a positive explosion, and you know. So
first of all, Brazil, yeah. Black people, yes, and also, you know, Caucasian. They look Caucasian.
Yes, Caucasians.
The Portuguese stock.
Portuguese. They speak Portuguese. And that's the official language. But I have to also let you know that Brazil is the second most populous black nation on earth after Nigeria. Okay. So that is the largest population of black people outside Nigeria. So Brazil's population about 215 million now, it dropped a little. And out of that 215 million, about 56 to 58% of that population are blacks. So we have about 126 million or whereabouts of black people, you know, in Brazil.
And going back to the little story we spoke about the slave trade origins and the establishment of that colony there, about what proportion of that would be Nigerian?
Oh, and actually,
well, Nigerian stock. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Before the slavery, there was no Nigeria.
That's right.
So I want us to just look beyond the word Nigeria. You know.
Okay. There were no blacks.
No, as in, we should say Nigerians, but I will say people from Africa, from the western part of Africa, yeah. You know, which involves the kingdom of Oduduwa, the Yorubas, you know, if you look at K2, you know, and everywhere from the Dahomey, Oyo, you know, everywhere Ekiti, you know, and also the West Congo, and that, we can say that. But one of the serious factors that people need to know about that influx of West Africans to Brazil is that most of them, you know, as the result of, there is this map that's designed by UNESCO, and we're also actually working on it. Many people came from West Africa, but the Yorubas dominated, you know, with our culture. So that is why it looks as if the Yoruba culture pulsates the city. It's everywhere. But there's just little minority, you know, compared to Angola, people from Angola and that. But the Yorubas, you know, influenced, and majorly they were the one that confronted, you know, the major part of the, you know, restriction from the colonial, and that culture I know our heritage stayed, and that is what the Brazilians and the black Brazilians are using until today, you know, as a form of repelling the colonial oppression. So that Yoruba culture, our heritage, you know, created an armor for them, and that is what they still use. They call it the tool of resistance. Okay. So that is why the Yoruba culture goes high.
So where do you fit into this? Is it as an academic endeavor or what? Also, a lot of people, you spoke about the Yoruba, you know, influence over there. The Yoruba spirituality is very, very strong over there. Ifa is very, very strong. There are many Babalawos. They go from between there and here. Brazil, and so where do you fit into it? Even the late Oni of Ife, I'm speaking about Kwadeshwa. He sort of, it was very, very important to him, and he used to have visitors, you know, tourists, maybe even priests that were going and coming. Yeah. So where do you fit into it? Is it as a businessman? Is it as an academic endeavor?
Very good. Thank you so much for that question. First of all, I'm a Pan-Africanist and I'm a cultural enthusiast.
Okay.
So, and we created a company called the African Pride. When you read the word African Pride, means anything, anywhere, any person that celebrates Africa, you see me there. So in Brazil, when I got to Brazil, I saw this cultural incline in their spirit, and the way they embrace Yoruba culture, you know, I just clicked immediately. So one of the things I saw in them is that I saw that that necessity of wanting to connect back to their roots, you know, is there. So I saw that lacuna. So I thought of, okay, how can I create that network in a real way where many Brazilians that feel they need to connect back to their roots, you know, let's see how we can do it. But, you know, just saying you want to connect is not just like that. You know, we have to start, you have to look at it structurally. Look at the African Union, and look at the Nigerian government, look at the African continent. Let's see how we can really connect, really. Just like what Ghana is trying to do, but a little bit more deep in the spiritual perspective. Why? Because they hold on to our culture and Yoruba very high, you know. So I was looking at, okay, how can I merge all this in together? So that's why I'm in between, trying to see how we can connect them in a spiritual way, connected with more culturally and improving tourism and all these things. So we're just playing around that angle.
Okay.
So that's how I am.
And then, since you've the Yoruba seem to have an emphasis, there are very few places where you won't find the Yoruba. Even you go over to Cuba, it's
Cuba,
similar.
Yes, Venezuela,
exactly.
Mexico.
And because they were resettled at the end of slavery, they still had that germ in them of who they were, the people that they were. And I suppose they always had their religions within, they had their religion within them. And some of them, quite a number of them, took their spiritual beliefs and began to, you know, indeed worship over there. So we now have a quaint, when you listen to Ebabalawo from Brazil, for instance, he's speaking Yoruba, but it is Yoruba
diluted.
They come here on excursion.
You
know, they come here to come to the motherland, so to speak. So all of that is in there, but we'll get to it. For this sort of very brief cultural background. Today, now, we're talking about Brazil, that is an industrial giant. You know, you think of engineering, you think of Brazil. There was a time when the Volkswagen car, they used to come from Brazil. You know, there used to be a manufacturing plant in Brazil when that was still in operation, and many other areas like that.
The airplanes. They make one of the best airplanes in the world.
Indeed. They make fighter jets and all of that.
Airplanes.
So there's a lot. Now, what is the connection in terms of business, in terms of what each gets from the other? Infrastructure, they're very, very strong on infrastructure as well. Very, very strong.
Very strong.
People say that it is our natural resources that we reciprocate with. You tell me about this.
I will quickly say this in a couple of minutes by saying, like I started with, Brazil is the giant of South America, while Nigeria is the giant of Africa.
That's right.
So you can imagine when these two giants come together, you know, they will definitely show the world the way to reconstruction. So what we are looking at is that the Brazilians, with the highest population of the black people, they are actually interested in Nigeria. So they want to connect to Nigeria. And in Brazil, agriculture is the strength of Brazil economy. Agriculture. They do anything in agriculture. So one of the first things we have to look at is the connection in terms of agriculture. We have the same type of land and weather, you know. So this is the
tropical
first
crops.
Yes. That's the first thing we have to look at. When it comes to infrastructure and also manufacturing and that side, we have to also understand that the proximity between Brazil and Nigeria and in West Africa is very strong. Like I will mention, I always say this, Brazil to Nigeria, we can compare by saying something like if it's a ship, a true cargo ship leaves China, it takes 32 days to arrive in Nigeria. But in Brazil, it takes less than 14 days. So what it means is that the ship will tow and fro Brazil, Nigeria before the one from China docks in Nigeria. So that is serious. And I can tell you emphatically that that route between Nigeria and Brazil or Africa had been non-existent for years. And that is what I believe the president of Nigeria and president of Brazil presently are looking at, see if we can come together, you know, this will help us a lot because we are two giants. We have the population. And we can help each other. So the Brazilians are not interested, the Brazilians are not interested to come here to just take from you. They are interested to come here to see you as a brother. Let's join together, let's build the world together, you know, and they are ready to give you informations and technology.
You said the shipping routes.
Yes.
That would halve, as it were, the time it takes a Chinese ship to arrive in Nigeria, in Lagos.
Yes.
It will take only half that time for Brazil. But you said that route is blocked now.
It's not in operation.
It's not in operation. Yes. Now, why? It doesn't make sense not to be in operation.
Yeah, if we want to go deep there, you know, and of course, we've gone through many consultations and informations, you know, some factors, you know, have been blocking the relationship between Brazil and Africa. Now, I will just give you this for fact. The present president of Brazil is President Lula da Silva. During his first tenure, this is the second time, you know, the first tenure used 8 years. He established about 27 to 28 embassies in Africa. He was the first person who did that, you know. So he left, the next president came in, the lady, and after that, this challenge about the far right and the far left always disturbs, you know, the relationship. Why? Because in quote, the far right are not Africa inclined. They are not Africa, you know. So the far left are always, you know, they are not far, you know. So the far left are always trying to see how we can connect with Africa. That's why Lula is the far left. He wants to connect with the black people, want to connect with Africa, and that. Even very soon now, the vice president of Brazil is going to visit in Nigeria in the next few months, I think June or July, and we're already in the entourage coming with him. So this is very important to them. That is why they are coming here. And when President Tinubu was in G20, they had a fantastic relationship meeting just last year. Because that is building up now, and it is very important that we look at that relationship, you know, and both presidents are interested already to build that relationship. I also want to mention to you, before we go far, that the present governor of Central Bank, Yemi Cardozo, is a descendant from Brazil.
Now, of course, whoever is interested in these things will know. You know, there are all these names that
fantastic man, brilliant.
Just a name, just one name. There's a whole.
So looking at those kind of people, you can imagine what can happen if we have those kind of people join us more. Look at Aguda. Look at what they did. Those people that came into to Lagos. Look at how they've transformed our country, the influx. So that connection.
Garocha,
you know.
Well, yes,
Santos.
you're saying it properly. You know, there's the Anaguda area in Lagos. You know, the architecture. When they came, when they, upon the ending of slavery.
Yes.
Those that were Nigerian found their way back home, and when they arrived, they brought a lot of the Brazilian influences.
Yes.
So if you're interested in such things, just moving around Lagos, you can see the Brazilian
Fernandez.
Those are the names.
Even I met with the present governor of Lagos State, you know, and that day he told us that even his wife, you know, the first lady, is a descendant of Brazil. So that tiny insects that came into Nigeria. Imagine what they've helped us with. Imagine if more come in. You know, the skies are.
Well, you're a cultural diplomat and a heritage advocate, and in just in a few moments that we've been speaking together, all of this has shown. But Brazil today is a far cry from those early times. Nowadays, what? If anybody has heard of BRICS, the B in it is Brazil.
Yes.
You know, and then
Russia,
there's Russia,
India, China, South Africa,
but not Nigeria.
Yeah, but they've just invited Nigeria because those those countries came together many years ago, trying to see how they can create a good relationship where trade can function, and they've been inviting countries in, to join them as partners. Now Nigeria is invited, and this year, there will be a BRICS meeting in Brazil, and President Tinubu will be there by God's grace. Because we need to have other alternative to that dollar action, and I think BRICS is bringing that option to us.
Indeed. Well, I was speaking about the industrialized aspect of Brazil.
Yes.
They make planes,
Yes.
I think I spoke about Volkswagen. So engineering.
Yes.
Engineering. Are they in the space race? Are they interested in
Yes, they are also there, and because the educational structure of Brazil is very good. You will be shocked to know that many Nigerians in the 90s and early 80s studied in Brazil.
So they have to learn Portuguese.
Yeah, they learn.
Since
they
that's
have
the
to learn
national
Portuguese,
language.
but they also speak English, and when it comes to the masters and the doctorate part. But many Nigerians, and presently many Nigerians are studying in Brazil, and it's free. Instead of you going to the United States and spending $15,000, $20,000, Brazilian school is free,
right.
And it gives you the same thing that you get anywhere else. We'll get to that in the future when the collaboration and relationship comes in. So that is also what we are doing, because presently we are working with Professor Wole Soyinka, the Nobel laureate, fantastic man, at that age, very energetic.
That's another cultural advocate.
Inspiration all around, and also one of my mentors, He's pushing that agenda of seeing how we can create a connection. He created a concept we called HVR, Heritage Voyage of Return. The Heritage Voyage of Return of Professor Wole Soyinka is to see how we can get a ship from Brazil that will sail to Senegal and stop on each African countries on the western coast of Africa and give a final stop in Lagos. So what he's doing, he called the return. We are the brains and beauty of Africa, can join Brazil, and we sail from Brazil. And we're having like 5,000 people on the ship. We're going to sail next year. We've been doing it for 2023. The previous president, Tinubu, also has endorsed it. He's very enthusiastic about it, because we want to see these people come back home, connect, and see how we can build. So that is what we are doing, Professor Wole Soyinka, presently. Also, for the past 6 years, you can see, like you mentioned, Ooni of Ife. I also represent him in Brazil as an ambassador. He was in 2018 and 2023 when he visited President Lula. President Lula established what we call World Orisha Day. It is a particular day, that is March 21st, where they signed it, that this day is when we holiday for Orisha. So that was the first time. Then His Imperial Majesty was there, to attest to that.
When you speak about Orisha, a lot of viewers listening will recognize that you're touching on Yoruba spirituality,
yes,
which is very, very big,
very huge.
In some of those countries, Cuba, Brazil. But I suppose, is Brazil the biggest? Who has the biggest concentration of
Brazil?
Nigeria? It is Brazil.
I can tell you practically that 80 million Brazilians have a connection with Orisha. 80 million.
And consequently, Nigeria. And consequently, the Yoruba stock in Nigeria. I mean,
yes.
Yeah, because
like 40 million in Nigeria. So Brazil is ×2 Nigeria. So imagine if we can connect with them, and they are yearning, and they will do anything to step this place.
So what's stopping us?
We are building it like what Professor Oshika is doing, and Ooni of Ife. See, from the first time we've started, Ooni has supported, he has invested.
Even the sitting Ooni.
Yes, that is the present Ooni Adeyeye Tombawatude Ogunwusi, And also the former Alaafin too did very well. He visited some couple of times because there in Brazil, they said they've celebrated a lot in terms of the Orishas. They connect more to Oshun, Shango,
these are all Yoruba deities.
Deities, and those Orishas that we celebrate in our own spirituality. Do you understand?
But wait a minute, as you are emphasizing this this close connection with Yoruba spirituality through all of these, Brazil also has the distinction of having the largest statue.
Yeah,
of
Cristo
Christ.
Redentor.
The largest statue of Christ,
Yeah,
Jesus
the
Christ
Christ
in the
Redeemer.
world.
Yes, in Rio de Janeiro. Yes, and that
apart from artistic, it's also a technical feat, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a massive masterpiece. When you get to Brazil, when you fly into Rio de Janeiro, you have everybody want to visit.
That is what we call Rio de Janeiro.
Rio, okay.
But the proper is Rio. Did you
Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
Because I speak Portuguese, so sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah. So people want to visit that. Even the Oni has visited there. In Brazil, it's also important to know that they are the Catholic. They are more of that.
Very, very strong.
So, but this is the beauty. The Catholic community and the Orisha community go hand in hand. Because what happens is that during the slavery, what happened is that they
wait, you don't come and cause trouble here.
I'm telling you,
you just said the Catholic community,
yes,
and the Yoruba spirituality community, yes, known as Orisha.
They intertwine, yes.
They intertwine?
Yes.
Okay, wait.
I'll explain.
You explain, but I also have someone on the line. Okay. Mazi Okorafo, good morning to you, sir. In Arochukwu.
Good morning, sir.
I've just heard that the Catholic community and the Orisha community are intertwined in Brazil. Did you want to speak about that?
Yeah. You see, when you talk about the Catholic community, that's the capital of Catholicism.
Yes.
Within the folk of Eastern Nigeria. And if you go to Brazil, you see that without say 90% Catholics. Now you see, if you read history, you see that Catholic Church is a universal church. And the foundation is very, very universal. And that place, the Vatican law covers everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry. Anything you do or before you do it, the Vatican law covers everything. So that is why the Catholicism there is so numerous that Catholic Church is a universal and the foundation of all the churches. And if you check the history, you see that other religions, when I mean other, Pentecost, name them, you must trace the blood of that university from Catholic Church. Check everywhere. And even if you come back to other religions, other Christian religions, you see that the foundation for our religion has to do with the rudiments of part of Catholicism. But the question is now, if you take away, I say that the Catholicism is now what we call the religion that has to do with foundation. And everybody, if you like to go, you go. If you like to pull out, nobody forces you. Nobody comes to force to come, like anywhere you go there. And that's why the Brazilian style and Nigerian economy has a very good thing to do. If you see in those days, they what they call Brazilian sugar. Many people were enjoying it. Now, I don't know, after the Brazilian sugar, what do we get? The system comes back to the one. We manage our own resources the way it's supposed to be. But the thing is this, religion is universal. Whether you belong to charismatic or whether you belong to Orthodox. That is why if you look at the Catholicism now, not only Brazil, everywhere, the religion is now Catholicism that has to do with Orthodox and charismatic. And Orthodox get married together, it has just gotten to Pentecostal churches. So that is why religion is the key. If what we practice, like the business we do with Catholicism in Brazil, in other places, is what we do. No, that is why this system of binding and casting, it has been existing, but people have turned it into business. Yes. Can you imagine somebody now come back now? You go to the hospital, like in this story. A woman, yes, you lack blood. Instead of the doctor to collect blood from the blood bank, he said it's against his own religion. At the end of the day, the baby survived and the woman died because of lack of blood. May God help us in this country. Honestly speaking, the needful, Brazil system and the Nigerian government, we are doing the needful. But we pray that what we see today, to put it into practice. Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. And this particular aspect of the conversation is interesting. Brazil is leaning very. Thank you very much, Mazio Okora, for chipping in there. Is leaning very much on spirituality. Yes. We just spoke about the largest Christian statue in the world. Yes. It's there. The Yoruba spirituality is very, very serious, taking very, very serious.
In the middle of the city in Brazil, there is Orioloko, that is the head of Ife.
Yes.
It represents Zumbi dos Palmares. Zumbi dos Palmares was a black warrior who fought like a resistance to the slave masters, always fighting and protecting the people. So it's just like the story you hear in Abeokuta when there is war, he helps the people and go to Olumoro can hide. So he's always pushing back and resisting. You understand? So I also want to mention this is very important. President Tinubu is a very brilliant man. I'm not a politician, but I have to say the truth. They've established what we call World Orisha Congress, the federal government, and they are looking at how they can connect the Brazilians, Orishas and Orisha devotees to Nigeria. Just last few days, we had a press conference in the Brazilian embassy on Monday, organized by the National Institute of Cultural Orientation under the Federal Ministry of Culture. Otumba Ajiboye, Biodun Ajiboye is very brilliant. They connecting with what the president is trying to do, that will establish that in Nigeria. And that's we had Professor Odeshoyinka and Oni there. Because bringing those two giants together and letting them connect with what has happened with the Catholicism that I spoke about. In the beginning, what happened is that the slaves were inhibited from practicing their religion, So what the slave people, smart people, what they did was that they saw that, okay, these Catholic, symbols and the St. Paul, St. Peter, they now said, okay, they now put it in their house, but at the back of that, they use each representation and put the Yoruba deity and connect it together. So when you go to Brazil, when you see Shango, you see Ogun, you see São Jorge, São Jorge, St. John, in St. George Day in Brazil, St. John Day, but it's Ogun.
Okay,
so that's where it comes together.
This is all very interesting.
Yes.
It's fascinating, in fact, but I do want to connect to the modern. Well, what did I say? What did I say? Modern? The Orisha, the Yoruba spirituality is eternal.
Yes, eternal.
It's eternal. Whether it is ancient, even Christians have ancient and modern.
Yeah.
So it's ancient, but they still are taking care of it today. But I do want to get to the scientific aspect of Brazil in this day and age. But let's take a quick break. Yourself that afterwards, or when you were born on the 8th day, it was Ifat said, this man is going to be a traveler. And so you come up with a name like Ajoyemi. Tell me about that.
Actually, I wasn't expecting that you're going to ask that question. But it's a very interesting question, So I'm going to say it. My mother, blessed memory, she died, in 2020, just last year. I lost her. It was very sad, but she was pregnant, the big belly, and she was traveling in a station wagon, 12 people. My immediate elder brother was seated in the laps of somebody, and they were traveling.
As a baby?
As a young boy, because he's a little bit older than me.
Okay.
Three and a half years older than me. So they had an accident and everybody died. She was the only survivor with my brother.
Oh, okay. So those that know the etymology of Yoruba names, you can immediately see
from something very deep.
Because you were on a journey.
Yeah, we were on a journey. So they had an accident, everybody died. She was the only survivor. Even she lost her head.
Meanwhile, you were still in pregnancy.
Yes. So they rushed there. She was the only survivor. They took her to some few days later. So my father named me Ajoyemi.
I see.
Yes.
Which roughly translated would be that the journey favors me.
It favors me. But it's so funny because my name is together with my mother's elder sister, because her name is also Ajoyemi. So my father wanted to, honor her, you know, because she, so it came at the right time to just give me a idea.
You know, once we, is there a call? Elder David, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
Are you hearing me well, sir? God
yes,
bless you, sir.
We can hear you.
Elder David, good morning to you, sir. Good morning, sir. God will bless you.
Amen. And you too, sir.
I want to ask you, sir, is there any language Jesus Christ and God does not hear?
There's none, no.
Is there any language?
None.
None.
Oh, God does not hear any language. If God hears all the whole language in the whole world, is there any language? Then religion is a minor thing.
Exactly.
Elder David, I wonder if your television, Elder David, your television set, I think the volume is too high.
Every human being on earth. So religion you are talking about, Elder David, yes. I wonder if your television.
It's too high.
Let me lower it down. I lower it down now.
Please, sir.
I continue my discussion.
Yes.
Then when we are talking of religion, God will not judge us by religion, He will judge us by our character. There is no human being God creates. Yeah, by our character. There is no human being God creates that did not have talent. We are all talented. But what is lacking is character. So when we are talking of artists, people don't believe in God. People don't believe in this. Let me tell you one thing. That Jesus came from Israel. Am I correct? Yes, where we have Christians in the West. Then if you go to China, they talk of what they call the temple. If you go to what they call India, they talk of Hindus. But in China today, they are good leadership. If you are corrupt, they cut you with money or somebody is death penalty. But you come to the other side, where we say we are Christians, you see that when we are talking corruption is legalized. But what is more important is good leadership in every country. We have got a good leader in this country today that's going to change things. Leave religion as an issue. During the time when our president today that is there, I call it God-ordained president, like Awolowo. Many of the religious leaders say he cannot come in. And one of those who bet that if he don't come here, I will not play politics again. And he will reach to 2031 because God has ordained him there. Leave religion matter. In the Christians we are talking about, everybody have his soul judgment waiting for him. If you are a Muslim, you have your judgment waiting for you. God say go and increase the world. Whether you are Catholic that was there before Jesus come back, read the 10 Commandments, never change it. If you believe that no language Jesus doesn't hear, God doesn't hear, leave religion issue. It will judge us by our character. God will bless you and bless every Nigerian.
Amen,
thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elder David, for calling in. You know, you see, I'm not too surprised that Brazil does bring out that kind of a thing, the spirituality, especially. And especially the, you know, by the way, is it just the Orishas, which is a Yoruba expression? It talks about the religion of the Yorubas. Other people might think of it as a fetish or especially the Pentecostal as demonic, especially would ignorantly refer
it's
to
very
it.
important for you to know that I was a pastor.
There you go. You were a pastor.
I was a pastor in Nigeria. When I was in school, I was a pastor. So sometimes it's not to know, it's ignorance that is, and the inappropriate understanding of your heritage and your culture. You know, I'm very confident with what I'm not.
That is why when you said Orisha, I was quick to sort of accept that and also reinterpret as
Orisha,
Yoruba spirituality. There you go.
We separated them. You know, Michael Jackson is an Orisha. You know, Papa Oyedepo, when he dies in the next future, in next it's an Orisha. It's something that is the Yoruba word.
I'm going to maintain silence here.
No.
No, when you went there, I'm not saying anything, but I'm just going to maintain silence. You know.
I'm not. I'm saying the word Yoruba.
Yes.
You know, the word Orishada. That means it's somebody special.
That's where
I'm not going to the negative part. I'm going to the positive part.
I understand
perfectly. So it's important that we understand that. Don't demonize that language. But you know, we start from there.
Yes, indeed. And Yoruba spirituality. That's the important part of this. There is a spirituality that is entirely Yoruba. They have their own version of creation, their own understanding. You know,
yes.
We don't have the time to go into it here.
A little bit of distortion, but
well, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it can't but happen when you talk of such an indigenous people like. Brazilians also have their own indigenous people, don't they?
Yes.
They also have their own
indigenous, yes.
The real indigenous people.
Yes.
You know. So there's all of that. But I'm afraid I didn't want us to spend too much time on the cultural diplomacy and the heritage advocacy that you do. I want to also look a bit into the business side of town. Engineering, especially. We spoke about science, exactly. They manufacture planes.
Yes.
You know, they are into agriculture, especially sugarcane. Apparently, they can do else.
Yes.
They can do almost everything with sugarcane.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. They are one of the largest producer of, you know, sugarcane and sugar, you know, in Brazil, in Cumza 45. One of our own in Nigeria, Dangote, imports sugar from Brazil, and it's been doing well for years. But I just want to say something before I 10 seconds.
Sure.
You know, in this idea of the culture of Orisha, it's important to know that both the Christian and the Muslim and even the practitioners presently should be taught not to represent it wrongly. Even most of the representation of the Orisha to be evil. Most times, you know, the people in the Orisha practice they do something very wrong.
Okay.
Because it's not supposed to be represented like that.
Okay.
Like I just said, Orisha. Now, it's Yoruba, Orishada, you know. Orunmila, open heavens. So why do we have to negative? Well, let's go back to that.
Indeed, because we could just go down that rabbit hole. Because even the Igbos, they also have the Ori concept.
Fantastic,
you know. So just as you are saying, Orisha Dan.
So let's go back to business.
Yes, let's go back to business and science. You know. Now, look, they seem to be marvelous at engineering.
Yes.
When you have a sky view of, I spoke about the biggest Christian, you know, the biggest statue of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
It's there. So clearly the engineering prowess, and then that they're manufacturing planes.
Yes.
I mentioned the fact that there were Brazilian cars, Brazilian Volkswagens. I don't know if I think they shut down now.
Yes, even the buses.
Even the buses.
Many buses that we use in Lagos today, you know, when the BRT buses were imported from, you know, from Brazil. And it's also just to know that one of our own here, you know, the airline, in Airpeace, you know, if it's okay to me to mention, you know, it's a big client for Brazilian planes. Most of the Airpeace planes came from Brazil.
So there's plenty that we can do together.
A lot.
Plenty.
A
so
lot.
when you a cursory look at the internet will say that in terms of trade between, trade between Nigeria and Brazil, it's the potential. I don't know. We've had a formal relationship with them, but it's not been very long. We're looking about 1962 or so when they set up an embassy here.
Yes, I don't want to go much into politics because
it's not politics.
It's very, you know, there are some sensitive things that we know. It's happening behind the doors. You know, there are some elements and some factors from the West that will stop at everything to make sure the Brazil and Africa relationship will not work.
Oh, okay.
And you can understand the Panama Canal. And let me just break it a little bit. Some people who are very smart.
Yes.
Why is the Panama Canal being invested on so much? You know, and the easy route between Brazil and Africa is being ignored. So they go far to Panama Canal. Those people, I don't want to mention them, you know, they invest, and because they constantly want to block that. And they've been doing that.
Yes.
You know, to block that relationship. But now the two presidents are beginning to wake up. They are seeing it, you know, so something big is going to happen.
Well,
you can be so shocked that many buildings, many infrastructural things are being imported from Brazil now. It's just that it's taking a longer route and it's taking it to go. But now if we open that route and flood it, Nigeria has a lot of things that Brazil will need, and Nigeria, you know, both. And when you talk about tourism, you know, I can tell you for facts that if you have a direct flight from Brazil, is supposed to take like 7 hours, 40 minutes. But if you want to go to Brazil today, you will spend nothing less than 22 hours.
You see?
You have to go around the world.
So
that 7 hours, 40 minutes, it's going to be cheap. Brazilians will flood Nigeria.
Okay. Timileyin in Abuja. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I just want to speak on two issues that you're discussing.
Sure.
One is about these Brazilian descendants.
Okay.
And I would want us to teach the younger generation the correct thing. They are returnees. They were not descendants of Brazilians.
They were returnees. Yes.
Thank you so much. Of course.
Yes, you're excellent. You're very if we didn't emphasize that, we were amiss.
Yes.
Yes, we know.
Correct.
Very correct.
But even at the they are returnees.
These are returnees. The whole Lagos area, Bokwa and all those areas,
exactly.
all of these are when they returned. Sorry?
Yes. Even Warri.
Exactly.
Could not be housed in Lagos were moved to Warri.
Yes.
And when they got to Warri, some that could not be housed in Warri were now moved to Accra.
Accra, Ghana.
Why you get the Accra, Ghana. That's why you find them singing your song, even in Accra.
Exactly.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much.
So that's another issue. Another issue. Yes, the second one is about the trade route.
Okay.
That trade route is not operational, more because there's nothing they will take back on their return journey. That's the ship.
Okay.
So what we need to do is to develop first and foremost our mineral resources, which the Brazilians need, and then get the agricultural things that we need and the training.
Okay.
And the opportunity for our own youth to be trained in Brazil.
Exactly.
Indeed.
So that we can now have a to and fro trade route along that short route that our gentleman talked about.
He was just talking about. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Timileyin, for calling in. Fantastic contribution. He's right.
We're so engrossed in that descendants. They are returnees.
They are actually returnees. It's properly. They returned.
Demi Cardozo is a returnee.
Well, his ancestors. You know.
I'm just using it.
Yeah. His ancestors. You're right.
Fantastic.
Well, the point he made of, look, Brazil is an industrialized nation. It's big. They have a lot that they can give us. But as Timileyin was just saying, the problem is you don't want to go back with an empty vessel. And so this is where he feels that we need to do our work.
It's part of the problem, you know. Yeah, and like he mentioned, in Brazil, so many institutions and government agencies are ready to come join with Nigeria to establish industries. You understand? So that, but they are better. Why? Because they want to come and teach for free, pass the knowledge. Brazil's biggest export is the knowledge. We don't know. You know, the President Lula wants to communicate what's this infrastructure or these ideas or this knowledge we want to give you for free. You understand? In return, we also want to learn from you. You understand? So most of those
and also they need our resources.
Yes.
They're not the only one. They're not the only one. Just about everybody needs our resources.
Yes, they will. You know, but majorly, when we look at Brazilians, you know, they want to come here. Let's connect with you, like the former caller, the former caller just said. Teach our children, our youths, so when they come here, we can produce to have in return for them.
Well, how far down the road are we in this endeavor that you're talking about now?
Yeah, like I said, the next few months, the Vice President is coming, and just last month, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was in Brazil. You know, it was hosted by the government of Brazil and the Federation of Industry, and also the BNDES. The BNDES is like the Bank of Brazil to connect with, you know, international business. And so they are doing. The federal government is doing well, unlike before. You know, to concretize something with Brazil. So we are going very well. And also the part of culture, like I mentioned, National Institute of Cultural Education is doing so well. You know, they've been to Brazil. They're also trying to see how we can develop that cultural and that tourism. You know, so those things are going to help seriously. You know, the president has an listening here, Brazilian president has an listening here, and they still have some years, you know, on there, whatever, to get things done.
You know, I don't know if you find many Nigerians maybe, pardon the expression, modern-day Nigerians in Brazil. I'm not sure. Simply, I wonder if it is simply because of the language. You find people gravitating, not exclusively, but most of them are going to areas where English where they can communicate. But then you see a lot of Nigerians. I mean, Nigerians are lion hearts. They go to places where they actually have to learn the language to get by. You know, but I suppose Portuguese. Having to learn Portuguese, but then you go to Italy, you're gonna have to learn their language as well. I don't know.
Yes.
Is that a barrier? Is that a problem?
It's actually a barrier, you know. But you know, you have different Nigerians who go out for different reasons. You know, when I wanted to travel, to travel to Brazil, I was not thinking of United States. I was not thinking of UK. I was thinking more of where I can go to, you know, and integrate with site. I was looking for value. You know, so if I go here, what will I do? What good will I do to my country? That was what I was thinking. I was not interested in running away from Nigeria. I was interested. That's why almost every year I come to Nigeria 2 to 3 times. I'm going now. I'm coming back in June, and I'm coming back in September, and I'm coming back in December. I've gone back 3 times this year.
Do you maintain a home over there?
Yes, I have a room here. I have a family in Rio de Janeiro. My wife and 2 kids. I married a Brazilian.
Okay. You know. Do you also have a Nigerian? A Yoruba wife?
No, I don't have.
Why now? You are allowed polygamy. No, you are allowed.
I just have 1 wife.
No, that's not good enough.
And I have 2 children.
That's not good enough.
You
must add 1 more. That was just a joke.
I understand.
I hope your wife is not listening. It was just a joke, madam. It was just a joke. Please, you know.
Yes. So that connection and that we can really build.
Does that mean you're a Brazilian citizen?
Residence.
Oh, okay. You have like permanent residence.
Yes, in Brazil.
And how about your wife? Is she a Nigerian?
Yeah, she's in Nigeria. They give them Niger wife.
Okay.
So she has, but my children are Nigerian citizens. They all have their NIN already. They all have their passports.
Do they have any connection to Brazil then?
Yes, they have the Brazilian passport also.
Okay.
So that's the advantage. You know why? Because both of them can connect in Nigeria and Brazil. They can do anything. That's the same thing you're also thinking of for the Brazilian descendants. You know, those people who have the Brazilian, the returnees,
the descendants,
and the intended returnees can also have a Nigerian identity, which they are yearning to have. You know, I told you we have about 80 million of them, and that's, you know what it is. We do the maths, you know. So
what you've come to do is to sort of sensitize us to, you know, the potential of Brazil for Nigerians. It's huge.
Like you mentioned, the education. Our Nigerians don't know that you can study in Brazil for free, from nursery school to the university is free. You know.
Did you partake of that? Or you didn't need to?
I finished university.
You had finished your schooling by the time you went.
We were talking about the language. You know, most Nigerians in Brazil, some Nigerians live in Brazil, but not much like you have in the United States because of the English. So if you want to live in Brazil, you need to learn the Portuguese. I learned it for 3 years, you know, but I was very dedicated, you know, because I had the purpose. I had what I wanted to do. So I was every day in, day out learning the Portuguese.
You say education is free. Did you learn that free too? Are there language schools?
Free. Yeah, you can pay. They are private schools, you know.
Okay.
But you know, in Brazil, you don't really need to go to private school if you don't want to. You understand? So you can have that.
Please.
Yeah, you can have that. You know, you can go to public schools and learn, and that, you know, even the hospitals, everything is free.
You know, we've run out of time, and it always happens like that. But what you've done is to come and sensitize us, and there are a lot of Nigerians who actually latently understand about Brazil, and we can't even not know about Brazil. There are too many Nigerian names; they become Nigerian, but we know their origin goes back to Brazil, in Lagos, but as Timileyin called in to say, not exclusively in Lagos. You know.
In Warri,
it even goes to Warri.
Yes,
and
very correct.
It even goes with the overflow, as it were.
Yes,
and
Benin, and those sectors, even to the north. You'll be shocked.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, to the north. And you know, so many years we had a fantastic relationship from the north. You know, the Guarani and all those things. The relationship from Nigeria, the north and the north central and the south. we had a lot. If you look at Igbos, you will see Camila. Camila is, you know, it's Portuguese, Brazilian. So we had, you know, the Igbos, they are there.
Okay.
You know.
Well, they're telling me that we're enjoying ourselves too much, that we actually have to go. Oh. But then maybe we'll be lucky you'll come back again.